Hey, Lead Up listeners, Mike Harbour, episode 414. I'm really excited that you're joining me today and tuning into the Lead Up podcast. I'm going to share 3 things with you that you need to do to engage your employees when there's no promotion opportunities. I get asked this all the time. How do I create a more engaged workforce? How do I keep people motivated? There's not really any growth opportunities for them here. Well, I'm here to tell you, leaders, that is on you, because we can help engage people, we can help motivate people when we step into our responsibility of leadership. I always say my mission in leadership, kind of my personal mission statement is when I was made a leader, I was not given a crown. I was given the responsibility to bring out the best in others. And that's what we're all about here at Harbour Resources. And it's our mission on the Lead Up podcast as well, is to bring out the best in others, you, the listener. So I want to thank you, first of all, for saying yes to listening, yes to your growth, yes for tuning in. I'm a teacher, as I always recommend you do, is grab a pen and paper, because I'm going to challenge you to take some notes. I'm going to challenge you to write these 3 ways down to engage your employees when there's no promotion opportunities available within your organization. And I'm going to really challenge your thinking a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and challenge you. I've already shared kind of a quote with you. That quote, which is my definition of my personal leadership. When I was made a leader, I wasn't given a crown. I was given the responsibility to bring out the best in others. Now that means something vital for me as a leader. It challenges me to grow. It challenges me to take my title off. It challenges me to become a leader that others want to follow, a leader that is continuing to push others to become their best. Another quote that I love by Eric Hoffer, he says, in times of change, learners will inherit the earth, while the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Let's talk a little bit about what that means. In times of change, now I don't know about you, but we live in a time of change like at the pace we've never seen before. I was just having a conversation with my son a few days ago. He's 24 years old, and we were talking about the things that have changed just in the last 100 years. It's 2024 as I record this podcast, and literally there have been so many technological advances in the last 100 years that it's hard to imagine. I think back to my grandparents who are now deceased and what they must have thought about the speed of change that they were undergoing. I mean, my grandparents went from not having running water to having running water, not having telephones to having a telephone on the wall, not having television, only maybe radio, but moving from television to then 24/7 TV. And those are simple little technological advances. I mean, think about this right now. As I stand in my home office, I'm recording this podcast on a camera that I paid a couple of $100 for, using a microphone that I paid a couple of $100 for, using a software on my computer that I pay a couple of $100 for, and I can make great studio sound without having a padded room, without having tens of thousands of dollars of equipment. And then I can push it out to the entire world. And we literally have listeners of the Lead Up podcast all over the world, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you. But just think about where we've come in the last 100 years. Think about that. Maybe you've seen that. I remember my first cell phone. I was in the military, and it was a bag phone. It wasn't really a cell phone. You plugged it into your lighter in your car to get power to it, and you had to pay a lot of money, and it was for emergencies only. You didn't talk to people really while you were driving down the road. It was an emergency phone only. And I got that for my wife because we were out in a remote area, and I wanted her to have a phone in her vehicle in case she had car trouble so I could get to her. But I had to be at home, or I had to be at the office where she could get a hold of me to do that. I didn't have a phone in my pocket as I do today. So let's think about that when it comes to leadership and Eric Hoffer's quote the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists, while the learners will inherit the earth. So here's my question. What is it that you want to inherit? What are you striving for? What are you trying to build as a leader? What does your team look like 12 months from now? I get really laser focused on what I want life to be like 12 months from now about this time of year every year, and I hope you do as well, because I think it's important. I don't want to be at the same place 12 months from now. I want to be that consistent learner. I want to continue to inherit something new. I want to build something better. I can honestly say that 2024 has been a great year of accomplishment for Harbour Resources, the Lead Up podcast, my team, myself. We've grown strategically, we've grown aggressively this year, and we want to continue to do that. But that didn't happen. That did not happen without Mike Harbour, me, the leader, beginning to become a learner in my life. Now, I started becoming a learner when I was 23 years old. That's 30 years ago now. And it took me a long time to really understand how learning would change everything about where I'm at today and the things that I get to do today and how I get to serve and help people today. And so what I hope to challenge you with in that quote by Eric Hoffer is to be a consistent learner. And that's what you're doing, hopefully, with the Lead Up podcast and this episode especially, is challenge yourself outside of the box. And I'm going to get into these three ways to engage your employees when you don't have any promotional opportunities. And I'm going to challenge you to think outside the box. I'm going to challenge you to become a learner. Not to say this is the way we've always done it here. See, that's what the learned do. And they inherit a world that no longer exists. We have major workforce issues today. And it's because we've been doing leadership the same old way for years and years, talking about changing it, but doing nothing to create change. And I want to challenge you to be a change agent. I want to challenge you to push the envelope. I want to challenge you to have people to look at you a little bit like you're crazy. Like, what are you thinking? That you're doing some things differently. In my book, Quit Losing Talent, I challenge people to think differently about leadership, about how we guide people. Now, it's maybe some old ideas that we haven't done real well. And so I've put new ideas into it, new ways, new challenges into that. If you don't have a copy of my book, Quit Losing Talent, I recommend you go to Amazon and just look up my name, Mike Harbour, or look up Quit Losing Talent Expanded Edition. Make sure you get the Expanded Edition. I wrote a book called Quit Losing Talent a few years ago, and then I wrote the Expanded Edition. That's the one you want. It's our entire complete QLT, Quit Losing Talent framework, cultural framework to help you quit losing talent and lead people more effectively. Now, what I'm teaching today is not in the book. So I want you to grab a pen and paper and take some notes. 3 ways to engage your employees when there's no promotional opportunities. And I get asked this question a lot. We want to motivate our employees. We want to keep our employees. One of the things I write about in my book is you must create a stay program. A stay program, a stay culture, S-T-A-Y. And I'm going to challenge you to get the book because I'm not going to teach what that means today. It's an acrostic. S-T-A-Y is an acrostic. But the number one reason, I'm going to come back to this in a minute, the number one reason people decide to stay with us or not is, do they feel valued? Not, are we giving them raises all the time? Sure, that's a measurement. It's not the measurement. It's a way, it's not the way. Do they feel valued? Maybe a promotion is one way they feel valued, but here's the issue with promotion is, in my experience in working with organizations, we promote people, but we don't support them. We haven't prepared them for the promotion, so they step into that and then many of them fail, or they just struggle their way through it. And that's what we do at Harbour Resources, is we help leaders quit struggling through promotion. We help leaders become leaders as they emerge into those leadership roles, or maybe find skill that they never have. Look, I work with organizations all the time that have promoted leaders, and they've maybe been in those leadership roles for 5, 10, 15 years, and they've never developed them. Sure, they give them a once a quarter LDI, Leadership Development Institute. They come together for a day, and they teach some leadership principles, and they hope that sticks. They hope that works. Maybe they do that once a quarter or twice a year, or maybe even once a year. And again, those things are good. But what we're talking about is habit change, behavior change, and that takes time and consistency. So for you as a leader, I'm giving you a tool today that maybe you've never thought about. But I want to challenge you to make this a part of your 2025 leadership plan for your team, your 2025 leadership plan for your team. Now, we must first begin with, if we want to engage our employees and we want to motivate our employees to stay with us even when we can't promote them, because there's not always promotional opportunities within the company. And as a leader, in my experience, we often make excuses. Well, I can't give them a raise. I can't promote them. I'm going to be here another 10 years and my position's the only one that's going to keep them. I hear a lot of that. And that could be true. Look, we may lose some people to other organizations because of promotion, and that's going to happen. But what I want to challenge you to do is, if they leave you for another opportunity, you've made them better. So they're going to be really good at that next company. That's your responsibility, to bring out the best in others. Now, where does this begin? Well, first of all, for you as a leader, I'm asking you to think about this. I've already made this statement, but what do you want 2025 to look like? When you get to the end of next year, I don't know when you're listening to this podcast. I'm recording at the end of 2025. You may be listening to it sometime in the middle of a year. But just think 12 months out from now. What do you want to be different about your team, about your leadership, about their ability to grow and inherit something that's different? What would that look like? Establish right now, write down a couple of goals for your team. And then do this. Stephen Covey teaches us in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People to begin with the end in mind. That's what we're working on here, is having you begin with the end in mind 12 months from now. And then, what do I need to become as the leader to make that happen? What do you need to become to make those goals a reality? See, often in my experience, leaders, we have these goals and we make excuses why they can't happen. We never ask ourselves, what do I need to be? What do I need to learn? What do I need to do different? What do I need to change about myself in order to make those goals, that goal, that vision, that 12-month vision, a reality? See, because it begins with you. You can establish goals through annual evals and annual reviews of your employees, but it requires you to bring out the best in others as a leader. And then we've got to get there through consistent coaching. So you start with goals, maybe you do these annual reviews, but where's the consistency in coaching toward those goals? Where does that occur? Do you have a regular coaching practice? I'm not talking about a 5-minute check-in meeting. I'm talking about a coaching practice. Let me just step back into an athletic mindset for a minute. When I was playing football and baseball growing up, my coaches just didn't say, hey, we're going to have a game on Friday night, get ready. No, we had to practice every day to get ourselves ready physically, mentally, game plan wise. What kind of consistent coaching practice have you put in place for yourself and your team that you lead? That's where it starts. Is you kind of establishing goals and vision, you beginning in those annual evals to talk a bit about these things with your team. You beginning to create, hey team, we're going to have a consistent coaching practice this next year. Every month, every week, every 2 weeks, whatever that rhythm is for you. I prescribe at least every 2 weeks for all your direct reports. At least every 2 weeks, because a month is a long window. And from one month to the next, we may get busy and have to move it. But if we have one every 2 weeks, maybe we have to miss one once in a while, but we'll certainly hit the next one. So at least we don't go more than a month in between those consistent coaching meetings. What's the vision? What kind of leader do you want to be? What kind of leader do you need to be? So it begins right there. It begins with you, the leader. Now let's talk about the 3 ways to engage employees. These are the things that you should be talking with them about during that annual performance review. And I talked about performance reviews just a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. I think it was episode maybe 412, somewhere in there. Just go to leaduppodcast.com, and I think it was episode 412, maybe episode 410. I'm not exactly sure. But go back to leaduppodcast.com and you can find that, and where I talk about how to do annual reviews. But now I'm just kind of bringing some more of that conversation forward. These are the 3 things you should be thinking about and then discussing in those annual reviews and your consistent coaching sessions. Number 1, here's the first way to engage employees, to get them engaged, to get them motivated, to want to be more when there's nothing available as relates to a promotion for them. Number 1 is cross-training. Oh, you say, oh, Mike, we've heard that before. Okay, are you doing it? Do you have a plan to cross-train your employees? Do you have a way for every one of your employees who want it? Now, not every employee is going to want this, okay? You're going to have some complainers on the team. Now, what I recommend is that you make it a requirement that every employee does some cross-training throughout the organization. Now, if you're in an organization that does brain surgery, I'm not saying we're going to let every employee do brain surgery. That's not what we're talking about here. But what if every one of your employees did some cross-training, maybe over in the accounting department, maybe over in the finance department, over in purchasing, over in shipping, over in a different department. They get some cross-training. They get a 360 perspective of the organization. Here's my question. Have you ever done that? Have you ever walked around and spent a day or two in these other areas to get a perspective of the organization, of your peers, your colleagues that you've never had before? This is a way that we can learn the entire organization. It's a way that we can build true succession plan and what I call bench strength development throughout the organization. Because, and believe it or not, maybe this is you. Maybe you are in a job that you don't really like. You did it because maybe someone pushed you to do this job and you don't really like it, but you thought it was going to be great. And you might find another role within the organization that you're better suited for, that your interest lies in a little bit more. This is one of the ways that cross-training benefits us as an organization. So instead of losing one of my valuable team members to another organization, I may lose them to another department, but they still are a valuable benefit to my company, my organization. So here's the challenge for you, leader. As you step into the next 12 months, what kind of cross-training plan do you have for your team members? Is there a way that you can let them go for a day or two here and there to work in different areas of the organization? Now, I know the first thing you're going to say is we're shorthanded. We can't do that. We're too busy. Okay, you ask for another leader to join you in this venture, and you get one of their employees for a day and they get one of your employees for the day. We either get results or we make excuses. We cannot have both. So we either get results for developing people, creating a stay environment, motivating and engaging them. We either get that or we make excuses. Which one do you want? That's all I'm asking here. Look, I believe that it's our responsibility to motivate, inspire, engage our employees, and this is a way, but it begins with you to begin to shove away the excuses that we often make. And look, me too, I often make some of those as well. We've got to push those excuses away, and we've got to step into a way to make results happen. And that requires your leadership. So number 1 is cross-training. What's the plan for that for your entire team? Number 2 way to engage and motivate employees is project leadership. What projects can you invite people onto your team to lead? That may mean that you give them one of your responsibilities, and you should be doing this anyway. You step into this this delegation, equipping, mentoring type relationship with them. Maybe one of your responsibilities each week or each month is to do inventory or to do a budget calculation, or maybe even to do coaching sessions with other employees, or maybe to do some training across the organization. Who on your team can you invite into that with you, to bring into that with you, and to allow them to be a project leader for you? Now, I'm not saying that that's for every team member. And I'm not saying you just hand something off to them. In my book, I write about the 5-step equipping formula. We just don't give someone a project and say, hey, Mike, I want you to lead this. You have to be a very good leader to mentor, equip, develop, and then trust. That requires you to be a great coach, a great teacher. And so, do you need to develop your coaching and teaching skills, your mentoring skills? Maybe going back to that quote from Eric Hoffer, maybe that's where you need to step into your learning. Now, you're doing that by listening, hopefully, to the Lead Up podcast. You're developing some of that skill. But where do you need to deepen it, strengthen it, make it better, so that you can challenge your employees to lead projects, to give them skills that they wouldn't get elsewhere, to prepare them for promotions that may come in the future but aren't available for today, to challenge them to stay with you versus take their value somewhere else. See, we create value for them to make them more valuable. They feel valued and they'll stay with us. The third way to engage and motivate employees when there's no promotion opportunities is to train them to train. Now, this takes another level of mindset for your employees. One of the greatest things, the reason I'm able to stand up in front of you today and stand up in front of rooms of people, crowds of people, and teach and train is because when I was in my early 20s, I had leaders that did these things for me. I was in the Army, and I had leaders that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and they challenged me to step into some training roles where they gave me small bits of information and said, okay, I want you to train. This is your 30-minute segment in this presentation, this training that we're going to do. And they started challenging me to train and develop and challenge other people. Now, that's not for everybody because, let's be honest, most people are deathly afraid of speaking in front of other people. So that could be some mentoring and training that you want to add to someone's annual eval, is that they become a speaker. They get better. They develop some speaking skills. And maybe you've got to do some coaching, or you pay for them to get some speaker coaching, or you help them work on that craft. You hire them a coach. There's a lot of different things that you can do to help them develop that specific skill of speaking in front of others or putting a presentation together. Not death by PowerPoint, by the way, but teaching and training, developing others. Maybe you can teach them to be a customer service or customer experience coach. Train them to train others. Let them begin to train others on customer experience or the sales process. Or maybe they become a leadership and communication coach within the organization. We start challenging others to do that. It may begin with something as simple as being a stay navigator, which is an idea that I write about in my book, Quit Losing Talent. That stay navigator is that person that locks arms with new employees and they become the coach and trainer, mentor, equipper, teacher of all our new employees on our team. There's various ways that you can implement this train the trainer type of philosophy and concept. But the three ways that hopefully you've heard today is, number one, make cross-training a plan, an idea. Not an idea that's not executed on, an idea that you plan out and challenge every one of your employees to do. Create that plan. Now, the second way is project leadership. Look for projects, small or large, depending on the person, and challenge them to step in and take ownership of those projects. And then the third is the train the trainer. These are three ways that you can engage and motivate your employees when there's no promotional opportunities, but we're promoting them as a person, we're adding value to them, we're challenging them to add value to the organization. Now, Simon Sinek said this, it's not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in our charge. If we want to create a stay culture where people stay with us, take care of the people in your charge. Be a learner. Be growth-minded. Let go of your control. Become a coach. Become a teacher. Take care of those in your charge. Hey, I hope this has been a valuable episode for you on the Lead Up Podcast. Leave us a review on your favorite listening platform. Make sure you visit my website, harborresources.com. Lots of free resources there to help you become a better leader and quit losing talent yourself. I'm looking forward to continuing to add value to you as we go forward the rest of this year and into 2025. I'm really excited about the plans we have for our team and for you as a leader. We'll see you on the next episode of the Lead Up Podcast.